And with us, we have the co-creator of Veggie Tales, and you might even hear as he talks a little Larry the Cucumber in his voice. Yeah, do you get that? You get that a lot. You have to, right, Mike?
I do get that quite a bit, Wally.
Well, that's not his real voice.
Going around with life with this voice is...
Your voice is a little lower in real life, thank goodness for you.
It is, yes. Yeah, it's much more settling.
That's a good word, settling. We have Mike Nawrocki in with us, and, I'm curious with the veggies, because we're going to talk about your new project, Sea Squirrels, but with the veggies, did you guys do like The Simpsons, where you had a few guys that did 90% of the voices?
Yeah. So Phil and I met doing puppets, in our early years. And
so
we kind of had our puppet repertoire of voices that we brought into VeggieTales. Yeah, and it was just cheaper. We didn't have to pay voiceover actors. We could just do it ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was surprised at how many times you just we need a voice for this, and you just go do it,
Right. And a lot of times, and we were involved with a church in the Chicago area that was really big into the arts. And so when there was a voice, it's like, oh, that sounds a little bit too much like this character or this character. And it's always easy to, put on an accent to create a new character. So the French peas or Archibald asparagus, you can get away with an accent.
Right.
But once you kind of run out of okay, all these are sounding alike, then it's like, okay, we need somebody else. So it was great being involved in that church because we can go get, Jim Poole, who did the voice of Scooter,
right.
He'd come in, he was the artistic director and all that. So we were able to kind of fill out the cast that way.
Now, you have, I find it interesting that you've been cranking out Christian content for so many years, and Sea Squirrels obviously is no exemption to that or exception to that. But I was really surprised to find out. I just figured you had a theology degree. I had no idea that you have biology and history, not Bible. So
man.
How did that kind of come to be for you?
Well, so I do have a year and a half of Bible school.
Okay, all right.
And I've had theology classes
technically doesn't
and
count.
Old and New Testament history. Yeah, no degree in that. No, but so I went forward. I remember being in high school, going forward at a youth conference with my denomination, the Christian Missionary Alliance, and dedicated my vocation to ministry. And I thought that I was how that looked in my 17-year-old brain at the time was that I was going to be a missionary doctor.
Right.
And so I went to my denomination's Bible school for a year and a half to get some Bible classes, and then had a plan to go transfer to a school where I could do pre-med, which is exactly what I did. But along the way is when I met Phil Vischer. Phil and I met at St. Paul Bible College, and then struck up a friendship and a creative collaboration that eventually led to VeggieTales. But I was headed toward the mission field as a doctor, but all along for me, it was what I wanted to do with my life was ministry. I didn't know how that would look at the time. God obviously showed me a different path. But
what would you say to somebody that's like, well, I want to share my faith. I want to be this great Christian, but I'm not in ministry. I didn't go to Bible school, and how can I be? How can God use me, kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, and that's a big question that comes up with me with students a lot of time, because they're at that point in their life where they're like, how, what does God want for me to do, or want me to do with my life? And, for me, how that worked was, I dedicated my vocation to ministry, and I headed off in a path to do that. But, I wanted to keep my heart and my mind open to other ways that God could use me. And I give a talk and use the example of Esther a lot. She was put in the right place at the right time so that God could use her to do His will. And it's for such a time as this. And so I tell students all the time, make your plans, head in that direction, but always be open to God using you in a way that you could never imagine. And that's certainly what happened with me.
I just think it'd be pretty amazing to see you as a doctor, and you're in the surgery and you got the guy's chest cracked open, and then all of a sudden Larry the Cucumber comes out. We're losing him!
We're losing him! Where'd I put that scalpel?
Where's my watch? That'd be so great. Oh, man. So now Mike Nawrocki here, he has a new book series called The Sea Squirrels, which you guys are turning into an animated series as well. And I know you're raising money. Did you get enough money to make it through all the episodes, or are you just going to stop one in the middle?
No, it's just been an amazing journey for us. No, but we have all the money raised for a full first season, which is is 13 episodes, which is based off the book series. We just released book number 9. Eventually, there'll be 12 books. So every animated episode is based off of one of the books, and then we'll have an extra animated. There'll be 12 books, and then an extra animated episode to kind of reset for a season 2.
Oh, that's awesome,
Yeah.
man! Congratulations. It's not easy to do anymore. You know?
My goodness, no. We just feel so thankful, and we've got some great partners that have stepped up beside us and have just been super supportive, and we are off to the races. So we're in production. We just turned in the script for episode 6 yesterday, and we are in production of episodes 2 and 3 in animation right now. So we're just, it's pedal to the metal. It's great.
Oh yeah, but what a great problem to have.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. It's amazing.
So we got Christmas coming up, and you wrote a story called Jingle Squirrels, okay? So now that is the latest installment in the book series. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't go to a year and a half of Bible school like you did, but there are no squirrels mentioned at the birth of Christ. Now, Mike, are you playing with the gospel?
Wally. No, Wally. In a really fun way. With VeggieTales, obviously, there was a certain amount of irreverence with what we did, taking this cast of ensemble cast of vegetables and retelling Bible stories. But we drew a line early on with VeggieTales to never depict Jesus as a vegetable. We just felt like that would be too irreverent.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Yeah, I think so. Looking back, yeah, but throughout those years, I wanted to be able to tell the story of Jesus, the New Testament story of Christ, in a way that is really fun, really accessible to kids. And so the Squirrels ended up being a great way to do that, to bring two fictional characters who could have existed in the first century. They get frozen in sea salt and dehydrated and then rediscovered in the 21st century. But they lived during the time of Christ and the disciples, and they have those messages to share with the modern world and recollection. So when Michael, the main character, experiences an issue as a 5th grader in modern times, Merle and Pearl are there to say, hey, remember that, Jesus had something to say about that, or the Apostle Paul had something to say about that, and we're able to integrate that into the story, and he's able to use that in his life. So it's a fun way to bring up those stories in a way that's really relevant to kids.
Well, that's what I like about certain storytelling now. Like The Chosen is a really good example. Have you seen The Chosen at all?
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes. Yeah, really, really good.
Powerful.
Yeah.
And they do a good job at telling the backstory, and they tell a story that isn't necessarily in the Bible, but it doesn't go away from the gospel, the truth, but it's what could have been going on, what could have a human being be feeling in this moment.
Right.
And I love that. And you guys have the ability to do this with the squirrels as well. Sure, they're no donkeys, but you can tell a story of historical significance with having a fictional part to it, and it's great. Right,
because the squirrels, what they do, they end up being sort of kind of a fly on the wall, and sort of an observer of a particular incident. So, for instance, in the second episode, Michael is having an issue dealing with bullies, or the second book is called Boy Meets Squirrels. But he's having a problem with a bully at school, and he's planning revenge on this bully, and so Merle and Pearl find this out, and they were like, well, wait a minute, remember that one time, back at the Sermon on the Mount? So we flash back. So they're like in a tree, watching Jesus give the Sermon on the Mount, talking about treat others how you want to be treated, do unto others what you want done to you. And so we're able to encapsulate that part of that message of the Sermon on the Mount in a way that Michael can integrate into his life in a really fun way.
Yeah, I can't wait to see this. I'm a huge fan of animation, and I like where it can just take you anywhere.
Yeah,
and it can be nonsensical and whimsical, but still have depth,
Yeah.
And that's what you guys, and you put that into everything.
Oh, yeah. Humor has always been such a really important part, but, in dealing with a powerful theme, loving your neighbor or forgiveness, I mean, that's a really heartfelt theme, and you have to, treat that with dignity and respect in a way that is, emotionally true. And so, working the laughs in, but then also working the important stuff in is really important.
Well, who knows? Maybe this episode of the book and eventually the animated episode will make it into people's everyday Christmas routine. Like for me, I read like this. Your book is the Jingle Squirrels. I read every Christmas Eve a story, not the gospel. Like we do that too, but I read the Tale of Three Trees, and I cry every year. And then one terrible Friday morning. One Terrible Friday Morning.
Oh, man.
It's just a beautiful story, and so I make that part of it. But I could see, like, during Christmas, you have these traditions, and start reading the Jingle Squirrels, during this for kids, which would be great. What is a Christmas story that you, other than the Christmas story, what is like a Christmas story you love?
Oh my goodness. I really love Dickens. Dickens' Christmas story.
Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol. Yeah. That one is just really, really wonderful. I love. Although it's not really a Christmas story, it happens around Christmas time. It's a Wonderful Life. It's a really fun story.
Do you have Christmas traditions that you either carried on or created with your family, like that you do every year?
One of the things that I need to get back into that my dad would always do with us, which was I grew up in a Polish family. Nawrocki is a Polish name, but every Christmas my dad would break out a communion, kind of a communion wafer, sort of an unleavened wafer, and he would go around to everybody in the family and break the wafer and say something significant about each person.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it was really, really cool. And I've done that once or twice, but that's one that that's one tradition that I had in my family that I really appreciated.
Yeah, we'd go to my grandfather's and mother's, and I come from a family with a lot of people that were musical too, and so we would just sit there, and my grandfather would get out his Les Paul and his Fender amp, and he'd play like Christmas songs and hymns and it was so great. And then he would always read the Christmas story. Yeah, and I look back at that, and I just remember that time, and I remember it so well. I'm not as good of a guitar player as him.
Man.
Yeah,
well, and I love. We do we always like to go to the midnight service at our church. So we'll do that. Whatever's going on Christmas Eve, we'll make time to do that, and then come back. And my wife grew up where in South America, where you open all your presents on Christmas Eve.
No.
I know, right? And I grew up here, obviously, where it's Christmas Day. So we sort of, kind of strike a little bargain. We open up a couple on Christmas Eve and then save the rest for Christmas Day.
We had that tradition. You got to open one. And I remember as a kid, just being paralyzed by which one do you open.
That's right. Yeah.
And inevitably, every other Christmas or so, you'd guess wrong and you'd open socks. And you're like, no! Worst Christmas ever!
I know. It set a bad tone. But then you'd get the bike, the next day.
Or the shoes to go with the socks.
Depending. Yeah.
So the Jingle Squirrels, it's part of the Dead Sea Squirrels book series, and you are planning on making this one into a episode as well, like an animated episode, right?
Right. So the way that the book series and the animated episode series works, it's a serial, and so every one leads to the next. So there's sort of a cliffhanger. There's kind of an overall story that's told over the course of the 12 or 13 books and episodes. So the Christmas episode is part of that. So what happens, without too much of a spoiler, is that the first 6 books deal with the squirrels coming back to Tennessee with Michael and interacting with him as he's kind of starting 5th grade and kind of what a 5th grader goes for. But there is somebody after the squirrels, the man in the suit and sunglasses. And by the end of the 6th book, he ends up, taking the squirrels back to Jerusalem or back to Israel because they're being sought after by an artifact collector. And
nice. So, I'm riveted. And I'm not even being sarcastic.
That's awesome.
I'm like, where's this going to go?
Where's it going to go? And so what happens with the books 7 through 12 is Michael is trying to rescue the squirrels with his family and friends, and they're going through Israel, retracing the life and ministry of Jesus. And so we start in Nazareth, and then we go to Ein Kerem, which is where Elizabeth was from, which is outside of Jerusalem, and then to Bethlehem for the Christmas story for Jingle Squirrels, and then to the Jordan River for Jesus' baptism, and then to the Galilee for his ministry, and then finally to Jerusalem for his death and resurrection.
Okay, so you do cover that. I was wondering about that. Because I mean that's the crux of our faith,
right?
But it is, when you look at it in real life, it was horrific. So how do you sanitize enough without watering that down for kids?
Well, and so really, I mentioned the flashbacks in every episode. So when in the Israel section of the series, we're looking back, we're flashing back to, Gabriel visiting Mary and Joseph to announce Jesus. And so we have that section. And all these happen in music, by the way. And in the books, they're not. They're just written. But in the animated episode, it's all musical.
Oh, okay.
And so when we finally get to the crucifixion and the resurrection, that can be done musically and in a way that maintains the heart and soul of and the importance of that without getting too graphic or too inappropriate for kids. And
that's the beautiful thing about music too, is you can set a tone,
right.
that ominous tone into a glorious tone without even having to say words sometimes.
Right, absolutely. You're communicating that emotion and that message really well. So,
well, speaking of that, I want to communicate a message very well here. Have you ever thought about rewriting Jingle Bells to market the squirrels in this episode into Jingle Squirrels?
I have not thought about that. No,
Okay.
but yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, I've taken the time and I've jotted down some notes here, and I'd like to just do this song with you. Okay.
All right.
So you haven't seen this before. I'm just going to give it to you, and we're going to bust out Jingle Squirrels. You ready?
I am ready, man.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Jingle squirrels, helping with Advent. Merle and Pearl will show the world that Jesus loves rodents. Hey, jingle squirrels, they have big buck teeth. I never really noticed this, but they kinda look like me.
Your teeth are lovely. I was just kidding.
No, I do have the two little ones that stick out.
You do kind of look like that squirrel.
I do, and Larry, right?
There you go. It's Jingle Squirrels and the series Dead Sea Squirrels. Mike Nawrocki from Veggie Tales on with us here today. Thanks for coming in, man.
Wally,
Appreciate
this
it.
is awesome. Thank you so much, man.